if you could, I'd like you to go through that letter of voluntary conditions and see out of that list, could you hit the ones that you believe we have a nexus for?
Nick Hendrick, City Planning. We have nexus for number 1, no on 2. We have nexus on 3.
Hang on a second.
I'm, for some reason, I didn't receive a copy of those voluntary conditions. Are there copies around somewhere?
James, can we get another 2 copies?
We're happy to share. Oh, that's what happened. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Nick, let's go at it again. You said number 1, you do have a nexus.
Yes, number 1 we do. Number 2 we do not. Number 3 we do. Number 4 we do not. Number 5 is not necessary. It's already part of our conditions of the track approval, so there's no extra amount that we need to go with on that. 6 we do. 7 we do not. 8 we do. 9 we do. 10 we do. 11 and 12 we do not have a nexus. 13 and 14 we do have a nexus. And 15 we do have a nexus. And 16 we do not.
Okay, and David, did you want to comment? Do you agree with that list?
I find myself in a rather unique position of being the applicant asking for more conditions. So let's mark this day on our
I
calendars.
think this is really.
Yeah, David Goldberg on behalf of the applicant. We worked very long and hard through the neighborhood council process, and most recently with our most immediate neighbors to the east. These conditions reflect.
So come to the chase for me.
We would ask that all the conditions be included, and we believe that once recorded against the property through the master covenant agreement that's required, they would all be enforceable conditions. And we do not believe that for these conditions that we volunteered, that because we volunteered them, that nexus is required. And so in the spirit of memorializing our agreements with the community, we ask that they be included.
Adrian, do you want to give us your 2 cents here?
Yeah, Commissioners, Adrian Forsyth, City Attorney's Office. First, I would say that before you make the motion, staff needs to articulate for you the nexus so it can be part of our record. So we need to just go through the ones that you are going to keep, and Nick can help you make the necessary findings. But for all the ones that Nick has articulated, we cannot make a nexus. Those are going to be third-party agreements for the most part, and the commission, the city doesn't involve itself in enforcing third-party agreements through its entitlement process.
Lisa, could you give us your position on this?
I would agree with our city attorney's position. This has been something that we've had a number of discussions about in recent months, and something that we're really trying to clean up in terms of the processing of our entitlements. Again, the commission has had a number of projects involving development agreements before you recently. And again, when there is a development agreement, things that are third-party agreements or outside of the boundaries of what's a true nexus, an impact, a mitigation measure, a condition of approval can be incorporated and acknowledged. But when we are dealing with a project that does not have a development agreement, we're fairly limited in what we can do. The majority of these conditions, I think, we can enforce, we can include, especially as they relate to transportation, recognizing that we do have a significant impact that cannot be fully mitigated. So we are able to incorporate the majority of these, but the ones that involve these community committees is not something that the city could be able to enforce.
I'm disposed to go with that recommendation and only include the conditions that we feel the staff is ready to give us a nexus for. Other commission comments?
I guess I do. I'm still not, well, look, we gotta we got a change of business practices when it comes to planning. And it should not necessarily be one that says, I think the city attorney needs to also be part of that change and that evolving of it. If the private sector is coming with conditions that are not necessarily identified in the environmental document, but are conditions that says, I'm gonna build a better building, and I wanna include this and that, then we should.
So I don't disagree, but we need to figure out what we're going to do today.
Okay, well, so let's do what the process allows us to do, but also acknowledge that we as a commission see that those conditions are a good thing to do. And let's find a process to do it.
So let's say after today, Diego, if you're willing to lead that effort, let's have further discussions and try to define where those parameters are, especially when we don't have a development agreement, which is what you heard Lisa say. But with that, unless you want to take on anything specifically here, and do say we have a nexus, I am inclined to go with Nick's recommendation. Yeah. So Nick, how fast can you go through these?
Okay, Nick Hendrick, City Planning. Number one, the nexus is that this project description is already incorporated in the project design. It was part of the project review and the CEQA statute.
Number three?
Number one.
I know, I'm going on to number three now.
Wow, that's, okay. Three is already been considered and discussed and made part of the record. There are improvements that were agreed upon.
Number six?
Number six is the same as the previous one.
Number eight?
Number 8 and 9 are related to traffic improvements that were considered under the CEQA
Number
statute
10.
for transportation. Same thing for 10.
13?
Same thing for 13.
14?
14. And 15 is fine. Same reasons.
Okay, I think I'm ready to make a motion with that read into the record. We do have a number of different conditions that we're willing to look at. I think, we probably should handle the appeal first. And so the question really is, we've heard the case. I'm willing to make a motion to stay with staff's recommendation and deny the appeal. Commissioners, do I have a second?
Commissioner Lesson will second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? James, would you poll the commission, please?
Certainly. Commissioner Roshan,
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cardoso,
Yes.
Commissioner Freer,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearlman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We now need to look at a second motion, which is item 6. About the project itself. We've included the conditions. We have a number of additional conditions around the TDM. Did you guys have the chance to describe those to us? What kind of commitment you're going to make on car share, bike share, bus passes?
On the car share, as we indicated, we're willing to dedicate spots to the car share. We've had, if you're looking for a specific number of cars, is that what you're asking for?
Yeah.
Two spaces?
That sounds a little thin. Is there a way to increase that if the demand proves to be there? Are you willing to do that?
Certainly.
Okay. So let's say up to 10 spaces if the demand proves to be there.
That would be fine.
Okay, bike share?
Bike share program, we would also do 20 spaces.
I'm good with that. The bus passes?
The bus passes, unfortunately, it costs a little flat-footed on the discounts. What we would ask is that we have the ability between now and Plum to work with the council office on a discount process, or I'm sorry, a discount amount.
And tell me if I can structure it this way, Lisa and Alan, the most recent one was the Caston project where we got, I think, a strong commitment to transit passes. I would say that it should match that at a minimum in a proportional relationship.
And that was 1 per unit for a period of 3 years.
So if you can do better, that would be terrific. But can we start there?
Yes.
So my motion would include that. Dana, you had another point before we get going on landscape?
Yes, Commissioner Perlman, two things. One, I would definitely echo Commissioner Roshan's comments about increasing the planters along the fire lane. 7 foot, I think, is the.
7 and 2.
7 on the fire, on the wall side, and 2 on the resident side. Also, I would like the applicant to increase planting, or at least provide planting around the pool deck, which according to the landscape plan we have nothing. So I would think there should be planters of at least 2 feet around the pool area to shield that from the noise and the particulate from the freeway. And to me, those are going to be substantial changes.
Yeah, and I would, I guess, echo Dana's position that if the 7 and 2 doesn't happen, because I am convinced that the trees do help, and it's been your case to make it, and I want to thank you for doing that, that in my opinion, and I think the commission's, we're going to suggest that would be a substantial change to the project, not to do it.
So is this a, I'm sorry, I want to make sure, point of clarification, is this a trade-off between the, increasing the dimension of the landscape planters along the private road?
I'm suggesting that,
Or-
I'm buying into your condition that the landscape will help with the mitigation effort. We want some certainty that the landscape is going to survive and be adequate. So we're giving you that minimum, that's 7 and 2, to make sure that that's going to happen. And if that would change, in my opinion, and I'm open to others, we would consider that a substantial change to the project as we're recommending it.
Okay, but just to clarify, the last commissioner talked about plantings around the pool area, is that correct?
Right, that would be continuing the 2-foot planter, which is on the northeast side of the fire lane, I guess. So it would also encircle the pool area along that lane.
If I can make the difference here, what I'm trying to accomplish is to have the view shed out to the valley in that area, and that's one of the reasons why we've left that open, in addition to the fact that we would also try to maximize the solar exposure to the pool area as opposed to hiding it behind a building. As you know, with the east-west sun angles there, we're trying to be able to maximize that. I recognize the trees do an amazing job for the air quality and the filtration of particulates. I feel that if we're increasing the size, as we've done, the HRA, and I don't want to get into all the technical aspects of that, but if we come to the conclusion that this is, one, I recognize from my perspective, we're just trying to maximize the marketability of that location. Putting trees there, we already have an abundance of trees in addition to the code, shall we say, with our open space on the podium, and now with the plaza. We've been working very hard. We're, 45-year history of developing projects with landscaping as being the premium aspect to our projects. I have no problem making sure that they survive, they sustain, and we're talking about in addition to the roadway. It just seems, for me, I'm just trying to be able to maximize that. So
We're talking about the pool only.
if I could
Dave,
beg
are
for
you
difference on the
convinced?
pool, I know it's possible, but I would prefer not to be there, is what I'm saying.
My concern is that by the pool, it just, I understand that you're trying to maximize the pool decking, which seems to be on the east side of the pool, where the lounges and things like that. It seems that there has to be some sort of shielding. We heard that the landscaping is going to be one of the key elements to reduce the impact.
Absolutely, and in talking with that, we were thinking if we had the landscaping along that perimeter wall, as we talked about the 7 feet and the 2 foot down there as well, if you don't mind, if we could have,
Could we,
flesh
but
it out.
just as an in-between, could we suggest that the landscape data happens at the deck level?
So if it's at the deck level, would you mind if it had some articulation to it, so it's not just a hedge of trees? I'm just looking to make sure that we can have some view out there, is all I'm trying to make sure.
That would be
And I think if you do it at the deck level, you'll be able to see through the trunks
Yeah.
to a large extent.
That would be fine.
Thank you.
So we've got the conditions, the 7 and 2 still stand. I guess I'd like to say, one, thank you. I think this is a hard-fought project. I think there's been a lot of work and a lot of care. I think it is a good project. I'm not so sure about the fact that it's a hill town in Italy. I don't see a
Well, it is
hill,
true
and
enough.
I'm not so sure that that's Italy. But I do want to say thank you for working so hard. I do wish that the architect, and again, thanks for your effort, Wade. The long section, I wished it could have shown a little bit more of what the project is. For me, that's an important section, and I want to thank you for doing it, to show that it really does work in context. As much as I understand why the neighborhood fought hard to make it low in the front and higher in the back, my personal viewpoint is probably that's not the best solution. I would have seen more of a balance. But with that said, after all those negotiations, I am not going to interfere, and I'm going to thank you for your efforts to resolve this as best you could with the community. And if I have one small thing, could you look a second time at the color?
We'll continue to look at the color too.
Yes, that would be really great. Other than that, I think the site plan is really well done. And Paul, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I wanted to thank the commission, and I wanted to thank the community for all their efforts. As Ron Ziff mentioned, it was a long process, a lot of hours spent by both the subcommittee, the land use committee, and the neighborhood council to get us to this stage. As I mentioned, it's 12 years in running, and we're happy to be here, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you again for the hard work, and I'm willing to make a motion to approve staff's recommendations with the densities that staff has recommended, and with the additional conditions that we've listed.
Just a quick question to clarify this.
Diego.
Okay, those voluntary conditions that we cannot establish nexus, what happens with those?
You can blame Adrian, but the, David, what happens with those?
Those conditions will continue to be adhered to, they just won't be under your auspices. So we will pen a letter to the neighborhood council, copy the community and the council office that we remain committed to this.
So why can't we, the commission, acknowledge that we like those conditions too? And then can say, like, establish a third-party agreement with.
Can I offer you an explanation? Because as much as I value your opinion still needs a nexus.
But it's a nexus of good planning, it's a nexus that we're gonna build a good project, it's a nexus that there have to be people in the community that would like to see that. That's a nexus.
I think this is an important discussion. I think we've.
And we need to
we're not gonna
ask
have
our city attorney, our planning department executives, how can we come up with a different type of business so we can deal with these?
Invite Adrian and Lisa and Alan. And we'll talk about it.
Well, I think this, Commissioner, for just one, as a kind of way forward, is that, that we might want to look specifically, is this a case study of the types of conditions that we have kind of determined here through your advice to be outside of our nexus, and figure out if there are opportunities there. So, I mean, the community room, I don't see it immediately, but there may be an opportunity for us to talk about what the nexus and the findings are. I don't think we can do it, I don't think we're gonna get it anywhere with doing it today, but that this could be a case study that serves as a foundation, because there have been some similarity to some of the conditions that we have wanted to include because we think they're good ideas, but we have not been able to articulate a nexus. Perhaps we can figure out a way to articulate that nexus. I think the council office is probably up here to indicate their commitment to following through on this.
And just quickly, Diego, thank you for being persistent here. I think it's important. And so I would love to have the follow-up. Jonathan, you want the final word here?
Yes, please. Commissioner, you are correct. Now, we want to make sure and help with the applicant and the community to work on these conditions. We think that they're good. I understand that there may or may not be a nexus, and the last thing we want is something that's not enforceable, but I believe that they're gonna follow through with what they said they're gonna do, and we're going to work the best we can to make sure that these are part of the project, and regardless, because this is something I want to see.
Jonathan, thank you. I think that's the best we're gonna do today. Do I have a second for this motion?
Second.
Diego, thank you. Diego, final comments?
I think that when you have someone like the school principal, when you have a mom and that came up and spoke, and when you have the neighborhood council saying, let's do this, it's a different project, it's a different way of doing land use planning. And then, you know, we're opening into the 21st century, we're evolving. And then those areas that are closely transit or transportation are evolving more, so let's do it.
Nina?
Well, first, I want to thank, I know most of the members of the community have parted, but I want to thank them for coming and participating in this, and participating in all the meetings, from neighborhood council meetings and association meetings, and I want to thank them for their passion on both sides. And I hope that those who were not voicing their support can appreciate that everyone here is trying to do what we think is going to help move the city forward. And I really want to thank the applicant for bringing a very creative project to what is an incredibly difficult site, and for being willing to invest not only the time, but the incredible amount of money that is planned to go into this project, which I think will transform this area. And over time, it'll take time, but over time, I firmly believe that this will improve traffic for all those residents who have problems, and the rest of us who have problems with these long drive times, because we are going to find more people to move into developments like this, where they're going to be able to walk and ride their bikes and ride Diego's Metro. So I really want to thank you for that, and I look forward to its construction.
Nina, thank you. Robert?
I have no comment. I'm ready to move.
Regina, you get the last word.
I concur, I'm ready to move as well. Just, I do want to thank the public's commitment to keeping our feet to the fire around being accountable to you, and to the developer for the efforts that you made in that direction too. And to staff as well, thank you.
I think this has been a strong hearing. I appreciate it. James, would you poll the commission, please, on our final motion?
Certainly. Commissioner Roshan?
Yes.
Commissioner Cardoso?
Yes.
Commissioner Freer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Pearlman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations on a good project. And